Hello, everyone. World's biggest geek here. My name is Kevin. Back another review here today, and I just finished the season epic finale of House of Dragons season 3. My goodness gracious, guys. It was crazy. It was gnarly. It was insane. It was so wild. I was like, wow, they deserve an incredible job for what they did. Like all of the things together. I was like, how they did it, how they made this finale just so incredibly well done. I was like, they knew what they were doing. They knew how to make it work. I was like, wow. Like I give this finale 100 out of 100. It was truly the best crazy finale of all time. Truly was phenomenal. It was insane. It was the best. It was a blast. Like I said, I know we have to wait till 2028 for season 4, but the way they made this look very seclusive and very like coming to the end of this, I was like, yeah, it's finally happening. It made it work. I was like, but let's get into it. So further ado, we kick off where Rhaenyra, so Lord Cornelius basically had his ships ready for the sea. And this other lady who had her army of ships ready to go. So Chase, so Rhaenyra's like, oh, I'm going to go into battle. And, Chase ordered the guard to keep Rhaenyra from, he's like, mother, what if you go? It's a trap. What if you die? She's like, well, if I die, you'll be king of Dragonstone. So Chase was like, no. He was like, he told the guard, keep her locked in this room. Do not let her out. As Rhaenyra was, all geared up, ready to go, she opens the door. She's like, let me out. Let me out. So Chase and one of Daemon's daughters flew out to battle. But then the three dragon riders that were with Rhaenyra were on this mountain. They said, oh, how long do we have to wait here? And Youth saw like some weird person with antlers and very tall and, very scaly. And, the witch was like, oh, you should be here. You should, be joining them. And so Chase and Daemon's daughter were flying into battle, helping out her grandfather to win this battle. But all of a sudden, Rhaena, when she required Sheep Stealer, she comes and she's like, you're home. But she's like, she tells Sheep Stealer to turn the other way towards the battle. And she does. But then Sheep Stealer sees her sister's dragon. And she's like, no, no. So at first they had Chase's dragon, but he was able to get out and fly and still burn all the ships. And then one of the lady of her ships knocks one of the King Aegon's server and knocks him off the ship. Because they go through this little trench of like the sea serpent to try to stop him. Of course, King Corlys has is fighting her men. Alan, he's fighting along. He's trying to protect his father, and she dies in Alan's hands. And now but then as Sheep Stealer is still chasing her sister, and Chase is chasing after that dragon. All of a sudden, Chase's dragon gets hit. Boom. Now Chase is in the middle of the water with like 3 arrows lunged into his neck and dead. Now Rhaena is like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I just killed Chase. So she flew away and never was seen again. Clubfoot and Aegon II were riding into town, and they were stopped by a couple of knights. They said, oh, you must pledge yourself to Queen Rhaenyra. And they said, and so they search through all their stuff and they find the crown. They said, what is this? They said, sir, you do not know who this is, but he is someone very powerful. Like, no, don't say it. And then they take Clubfoot and Aegon II and to follow the path to swear their allegiance to Rhaenyra. But then as Rhaenyra is yelling at her council, now one of Daemon's daughters, and they're carrying Chase. And they put Chase on the floor. Rhaenyra kicks him like, Chase, wake up. Banging on the floor like, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And then Damon, who was with these other knights, got a letter from a raven, was like, Lord Damon, this is for you. And they said, oh, one of the princes is dead, which was Chase. So Damon told one of the commanders of the army to keep marching forward and meet them to where they need to be. So as Damon returns to Dragonstone, he meets his ex, who's been with Rhaenyra. It's like, oh, I'm the one that she trusts. I'm the one that she listens to. And then, she's crying. It's like, oh, my kids used to run around me. Now I don't see them no more. I don't hear them screaming and yelling. And then, he's like, Rhaenyra, you have power. You can finally do it. So Alicent when she returned to King's Landing, she told the guards to stand down. And she had her and her daughter and her granddaughter to flee the city. As Rhaenyra and Daemon come in, they finally come in, like everyone's like, stepping down, and they enter the Iron Throne. So Rhaenyra's like, where's everybody? What's happening? And so these 10 or 12 knights stand up against the throne. But then you see the people in the back come in, and Daemon's like, stay behind me, Rhaenyra. And they said, we serve our commander Daemon. So now these 12 people who are loyal to Alicent and King Aegon II, they say, those who pledge will be killed. So because Daemon had all these this huge soldiers who pledged to him, they all were like, hey, you know what? We follow Prince Daemon now. He's our commander. And all those 12 were sent to the dungeons. And then as Daemon goes down to the dungeons, he's like, free these people, free these people. They said, Lord Daemon, someone left you something in one of the cells. So as he brings his fire, he laughs. Ha 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 ha. And everyone's like, they're thanking Rhaenyra, like, thank you, Rhaenyra, thank you, because there were those who still pledged themselves to Rhaenyra. They didn't want King Aegon II or Alicent or, Aemon. They didn't want any of them. They were still pledged to Rhaenyra. But then when you find out why was Daemon laughing, it was Alicent's father. And he comes and she's like on her knees. There was another guy who was also executed when he went after the queen. And, she's like, you're in my debt for saving my life. So, Alicent's father's like, oh, just get it over with. So Rhaenyra holds the sword and it's like, and like cuts off her father's head. So Alicent, when they bring her back with her granddaughter and her daughter, now you're like, oh, now Rhaenyra killed her father and she killed the guy that, who came after the queen. And now Rhaenyra holds all of King's Landing. So now she's there, she's ruling, she's taking everything. She's taking all the banners that belong to King Aegon. And, everyone's, so now people are like, oh, Rhaenyra's here. Alicent and her daughter and her granddaughter are kept in rooms. So now they're like, oh, is Rhaenyra fit to be queen? But everyone would make graffitis on the wall and talking bad to Rhaenyra. So one day she had one of the priests come to her and say, hey, I want you to affiliate me as queen. My father made me queen. He's like, sorry, by order of law, until Aegon or Aemon until Aegon II returns, then I can announce you. But until then, the gods do not favor you to become queen. And, she wanted to, have the priest taken away. It's like, if you do this, this is in the mark of God. I only rely on faith, not your dragons, not your gods. So Rhaenyra, she's like, she's getting angry. She's, like, people don't trust her. But then she finds all these rats running all around. And now they're like, okay, well, what's going, they said, oh, Aemon, he ordered all the rat catchers to be hung. So then Rhaenyra had this little party for all the other kingdoms and their houses. And she's like, dinner is served. And as she opened, they see rats and that's the supper. It's like, right now, my soldiers are going through your things, taking your gold. Like, oh, you're taking our gold. You're taking our gold. Like, how could you? These are for the people of the streets. Because now they know, oh, King's Landing is suffering. They don't have enough money. They're not getting paid enough. So then Rhaenyra, as she enters the courtyard, she just passes people food saying, my father did this. I care for this. And then she became, as now she is claimed to be queen. She told them, because they used to have the little balls at the table, said, no, we're not using those little balls. We're not using any of that. This is my kingdom. We don't need that anymore. So now, Rhaena is now in charge, but also Rhaen goes to another kingdom. So, oh, what are you doing in my kingdom? Like, please, I need to stay here. I've done something terrible. It's like, Lee, please, this dragon is very powerful. Just please let me stay here for what I've done. So now, people like, Rhaen is gone. They have no idea where she is. And as Rhaenyra, like she's getting all these like migraines. She was sitting on the throne and she had blood on her finger like her father. So when her father stood on the throne, she had that same exact mark like her father. So, people like, Rhaenyra was doing this and, she's not a good queen. But then we meet Lord Hightower, who is in Templeton, and he takes over Templeton, takes over the entire village, the kingdom. And one of the writer's wife had a brother. And, one of the soldiers, he assassinated her, he hurt her. So then, they said, oh, this man assassinated the soldier and, hurt us. They said, oh, please execute him. He's like, sire, please, I have a family. But then we meet, Darren, who's, been disguised with orange hair. But then, as Daemon meets Lord Hightower, he's like, we want Darren. So we meet this boy who's very quiet. He's like, you're one of us. As he brings her back to King's Landing, he tells Rhaenyra, look, you have to kill Daemon. He is going to be the next in line to become king. If you don't kill him, he's going to take your throne. So Alicent, she's still in this room. She's like, you're keeping us held captive. She's like, no, I'm giving you guys, food and clothes, and, I'm letting you bathe as much as you want. You're free to walk, the kingdom. But as, you also get to see your son. But as Alice, Daemon, this person, he's like this. He's muted. He doesn't talk. So then, she brings him to Alicent, and she's like, here's your son. And Alicent looks at him. She's like, this is not my son. So then the one who was muted was talking. Like, oh, Lord Hightower told me not to talk. He bleached my hair to be white. He said if I didn't do as I was told, he would kill my mother. So now you're like, oh, Lord Hightower is really like going against Rhaenyra. But then he goes to Darren, and one of the writer's wife's brother, he brings back. He's like, oh, I want you to become king. We don't need dragons. The Targaryens, they think with their dragons, they become powerful and strong and fearsome and mighty. So now he kills the brother of the writer's wife. And he's like, Dracarys, and burns him. So Lord Hightower is like, he doesn't believe in dragons. He thinks the Targaryens, because of their power, he thinks they don't deserve to rule. He thinks it belongs to man and man alone. So as he's still in Templeton, Rhaenyra is getting upset, and then Daemon is flying to the kingdom where Rhaen was at, and the dragon is like swooping, like, oh, I told you this way. So, the dragon sends like who is there? And in the dark of this cave, it was Rhaen. It's like, Rhaen. It's like, it was me. I was the one that ended Chase's life. I feel broken. I've been, hurt for what I've done. I will remain in exile. It's like, no, come back to, no, I can't show my face to Rhaenyra. If I show her face, she'll kill me. She'll execute me. I'm staying here. Like, no, you must remain with me. It's like, no. So then Rhaen flees, but then you see this little shepherd with these little goats. And as Rhaenyra was in, the meeting, Daemon comes back. He's like, boom, brings his head. He's like, this is the writer of your killer. He said, clear the room. It's like, I wanted to see the writer, not you killing him. And, so, and then the one that used to be with Damon was like, oh, whose head does that really belong to? It's none of your business. You're not part of Rhaenyra's council. She doesn't, look up to you. The queen trusts me. I'm her right hand server. She knows that I'm here with her. So whose head was that? He's like, I don't have to talk to you or anyone. So Rhaenyra is staring at this head, and she's like, he's like, as Damon thought he was bringing justice, it really wasn't. He was trying to protect Rhaen. But as time goes, it's like, Rhaenyra still stares at the skull. She feels, she doesn't feel like she didn't get justice for her son. But then as, Lord Hightower, he's like, Daemon is still in charge. He is the king. And Alicent's like, hey, I want to bury my father, and our kingdom is okay if you can bury my father. And Elena, she also wants to be outside. But then we learn that Elena is carrying a child. So Elena, she's carrying a child, and, one of that used to serve Queen Alice was like, here, I'm at your dead. And, she tells her daughter, Anissa, she's like, Anissa, you must have this, please. You're carrying child. She's like, oh, this is not mine. I want it. Leave me alone. So they felt like they were captive. But then as, they try, they talk to a maiden and they say, hey, it's coast is clear. But, Anissa didn't want to leave her daughter. She's like, I'm taking my child. This is my child. As they walk, one of the queen's servers like, did you not think I didn't know you were going to do this? It's like, oh, do you really trust the queen? Do you really think she's doing the right thing for King's Landing? What about Daemon? Do you think, all this is good or right? So now, Alice is like, but then as, Anissa, she, hears something, she's like, oh, the cat senses something. And it was a secret passage in that room, but it turns out the passage they were going was blocked. So now you're like, oh, now Alicent and Anissa, and Elena were trapped in this room. But also Aemon went to the kingdom where Daemon was, and he killed the king. But also he got stabbed in the back by one of the other king's servers. And the witch, he's like, help me. And he, falls down. While it's King Aegon and Clubfoot, they meet this king. He's like, oh, you are pronounced dead. He's like, I'm dead. How am I dead? I cannot be dead. I'm still alive. It's ordered by Queen Rhaenyra. So as they enter the town that her aunt's dragon was at, he meets this other guy who's in charge and he controls the kingdom. He's like, you will call me sir. Kiss my boots. And now, Aegon, he's sore, he's pain, like there's not enough food for everyone in this kingdom. So as they meet a familiar face of the server who was knocked off the ship, he's like, oh, what are you guys planning to do? And they say, oh, by the gods. So as they're talking, that same person comes back and was like, oh, what is this? And then Aegon stabs like, you will call me your grace. And he kills. So they buried the guy who was running that town. And now they try to flee so like they wouldn't get caught. They say, oh, the dogs will come. And, they'll know by nightfall that he's dead. So as Aegon and Clubfoot and the one that was on the ship now flee to another town, the war is intense. But Sir Christian, his men were there to fight that same army that was with Daemon. And then Sir, Christian is killed as well. As they're riding, they hold his head on a spear. And then, so Aegon, when he meets these little group of people, he feels some fire. He's like he's alive, your grace, we must go, he's alive, I can feel him. And and then Clubfoot's like, your grace, you're a terrible king, you're not doing good, you don't help a lot of people, and then he told the servants, like, am I a bad man, am I a bad king? So Aegon feels like, man, did I really rule? But Aemon, he did terrible things. He hanged all the rat catchers. He suffocated King's Landing. So I get with the Targaryens, they have that power. But then as, now Lord Hightower is preparing people in Tumbleton and having everyone. But meanwhile, Aemon is still at the same castle with the witch. and they've been ordered a reward to bring back Amon's head. And all these people are killing him, and Amon is still hiding. But then the witch is like, there were these 5 eggs hidden in this this castle. It was a Targaryen who ruled, and now this could be your lineage. The witch is like, I will give you a son. You will be king. You have 5 eggs. These eggs will be yours. You will be king. And then now, as the people are fleeing, King Aegon is like, what has happened, good sir? Like, oh, an army approaches. Was our leader with you? He's like, no, he wasn't with us, because they killed him. So like, okay, but now they're like, oh, Clubfoot is like, I am a crippled, so he leaves. So Aegon is like, okay, well, I'm staying my ground. I'm not afraid of this army. If they come, I die. And then as the army approaches, like, you must swear your allegiance to Queen Rhaenyra. And the servant's like, my king, are you fleeing? It's like, no. Like, I am King Aegon. I am the king. All of a sudden you see the trees moving, like, what's going on? And like the people are back like, I am King Aegon. I am the king of King's Landing. You will fear me. You will fear me. And as you hear a growl in the background, he turns around. He's like, Sunfire? Dracarys, and burns the entire army of Rhaenyra's. And Sunfire lives. And then as Aemon is, still at the castle, he sees his own brother, slaps him like, you were going to kill me. You were going to kill your own kin. He's like, this is what we're going to do. You're going to come with me. We're going to go find Vhagar. And then we'll go to Tumbleton. And we'll go, and then as we get to King's Landing and take Rhaenyra off the throne, I will forgive you. And, because like Aegon's like, what happened to you? You used to be fearsome. You used to be brutal. Has this place changed you, brother? Why are you doing this? You would, fight. He's like, fight me, fight me. And Aemon is like, maybe he's changed. Maybe because, Alice took care of him in this castle. And, he wants to build his own kingdom to become the most powerful Targaryen. Meanwhile, Elena, who was having a dream, Rhaenyra grabbed her arm, like, tell me, will I be queen? Tell me about, will I become, the ruler of the kingdoms? So you find out Elena is a dreamer. So when she was with her kids in her dream, you see winter. So winter is coming. So now you know, okay, well, winter's here. Something's going to happen for another 1,000 years. So now Elena is a dreamer, but Rhaenyra's like, am I going to be queen? Did Aegon do this, and will Aegon conquer me? So Rhaenyra, she's like being brutal, and she force feeds Elena by foods, like, you must eat a child, you must eat, you are carrying a boy. She's like force feeding her. She's doing all this, and then Rhaenyra goes to the church. It's like, I told you, I am a man of faith, not a man of your gods. And Alan kills the priest. And, Rhaenyra's like, my father named me queen. My father named me his successor. I am the one in charge. I am the protector of the realms. And now everyone's like, Rhaenyra, they don't like her. But then Youth, who was with Lord Hightower, he betrayed them. He's now on his side. But he was a drunk. He was wasted. And then Lord Hightower is killed. Lord Corlys is like to Daemon, is like, we must lead. Tumbleton has fallen. We must go. We must go. It is destroyed. We must leave. And now the other dragon rider is in grieving because his wife is killed. And all 3 dragons fly back to King's Landing. But then sadly, which was brutal, Elena jumped out the window and she died. I was like, wow. But as Rhaenyra was holding, what she was sewing, she saw blood all over Rhaenyra on the throne. So now you know that, will Rhaenyra be queen or will she not be queen? And now as the ending comes, and also she was going to grant Alicent her freedom if she kills Aemon, but she couldn't. So she poisoned him, but the witch gave Aemon back his life. And now, who knows if Aegon and Aemon will find Vhagar, but overall, we'll see how the war goes in season 4. And that is my conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, to the entire show of House of Dragons Season 3. It was amazing. It was breathtaking. It was outstanding. They did a great job on the show. I cannot wait to see Season 4, which might come out in 2028. But I hope you guys get to see the show as well, too. Hope everything goes well. And like I said, guys, it was awesome. It was gnarly. It was insane. And I cannot wait to see if Rhaenyra or Aegon will finally get the throne, who will become King's Landing's true protectors of all the 7 kingdoms. Well, that does it to everyone. You guys have an awesome, great day. I'll talk to you later. Be cool, be awesome, and be the greatest people you are. Dracarys. Bye, everyone.